So welcome to the third part of Genesis Models basic airbrushing tutorial. Now in this part we're going to be looking at cleaning and maintenance, which I know could be sort of like a boring subject, but when it comes to airbrushing, probably the most likely problem you're going to have with an airbrush, which can be simply resolved by cleaning your airbrush. So keeping your airbrush clean, in the second segment I did show you how to do a quick colour change, which is nice, just quickly cleaning it ready for a colour change, but really probably at the end of the day you want to do a full strip down and clean it. Now as for the compressor is pretty easy. You know, once you've finished with it, there's a little screw underneath the tank, unscrew it and let out any moisture, probably with a kitchen paper towel just underneath it, and then screw it back on. When it comes to airbrushes, let's just get out a few little things. Get a kitchen paper towel down, just keep all the muck in one place. A good product to use is cellulose thinners, a really strong cleaning solution here, which will just clean up any sort of crap that gets into your airbrush pretty quick and easy. Another tool you're going to want is a bunch of cotton wool buds, because they can nicely get into hard to reach places as well as cleaning it. And then there's a couple of other little tools. We've got a reamer here, which is basically for cleaning out our nozzles, right? And then we've got these little sort of wire brushes of different sizes. If you can really get your hands on a nice small one like this one, it really can get into some hard to reach places. Fairly sort of cheap tools. So what we want to do is let's just get this off of the air, and then we start stripping it down. So we want to take this airbrush completely apart, so taking off our little guard, and I do recommend you get these pots of paints, the Tamiya paints, they're nice glass paints. Put a bit of cellulose thinners in here, and I'll just keep a nice little pot, and I sort of throw in my little sort of delicate parts just into this little pot, just to let them soak and break down any paint. Moving along, we have the rest of our nozzle section just here, which we can just nicely screw off. Now a word of warning, if you're going to sort of drop any little bits into our little pot just here where we can leave it to sort of soak, what you want to be doing is removing any sort of rubber O-rings. So in this case we've got a little rubber O-ring that's just on here, right? We want to sort of try and sort of get this off just like so, and then we can put the other bit into our little pot of just cellulose thinners. Right, our nozzle section, this has a Teflon on it, and the Teflons, you know, they're designed to be able to take the punishment of stuff like cellulose thinners, lacquer paints, enamel paints, so we can just throw that straight in there. It'll be alright just to soak in there for half an hour or whatever it is while we do the rest of this. Then we've got our needle nicely exposed, so we just take off our back plate, we undo our little screw at the back here, right, and then we can push our needle through this direction. We don't want to be pulling the needle back this way, because all the dirt and rubbish is sort of on this end of the needle, and if we pull it back through here, we're going to be pulling it through all the working parts and potentially get all the working parts nasty and dirty. So best to bring it out this way. Right, and then we can get out a kitchen paper towel and we can immediately start cleaning our actual needle end. So get out a kitchen paper towel, let's get out our cellulose thinners, right, and we can just quickly tip that and have a nice bit of cellulose thinners on our kitchen paper towel, and then we can run our needle along this. Now because cellulose thinners is really good for breaking this stuff down, we've only got to wipe this a couple of times and this needle is then, you know, sparkling clean. Just looking at that, yep, all nice and clean. All the crap's sort of on our kitchen paper towel. Don't, whatever you do, start kind of pushing the needle this way and stabbing yourself and all this kind of stuff. Always draw it in the opposite direction of the needle. And also, as you're doing it, you can also sort of check, is the needle picking up any sort of hairs off of the kitchen paper towel? If it is, you've potentially bent your needle at some point and the needle's sort of cocked like a hook, and it's just hooking up some bits of tissue and getting it on the end of the needle. If you don't see any bits of fibre from the tissue, great stuff, your needle's all still nice and straight. You could get out a magnifying glass and sort of just check, make sure the needle's all good. If you do have a problem, there is from Sharpen Air a nice little tool for repairing and cleaning airbrush needles, which there is a product review of that on the Genesis Models website if you want to go check it out, but I'm all fine. And then we can go off and sort of start stripping down the rest of the airbrush. I mean, really at this stage we've got the major parts, right, that are all ready for being cleaned. When it comes to problems with airbrushes, these are the parts that are going to give you problems. These are the parts you want to keep nice and clean. The rest of it, we don't normally have any problems with the rest of this, but still, you know, we can take off the rest of these parts and still give these a good cleaning as well. We can unscrew this little back plate just here, where we've got our spring and our trigger just there, right? And we can put these to one side to be clean. Now, good ways of cleaning airbrushes is to get cotton wool buds, right? Let's move this out the way. And we've got a bit of crap just inside there. If we get a cotton wool bud, dip it into the cellulose thinners, and then we can sort of get into places like this pretty sort of easier and better. Spinning it around, and as you can see, we're getting all sorts of rubbish sort of get on the end of our cotton wool bud, right? And once it's sort of got dirty, we can turn it around, and again, you know, clean inside there. Right, now this normally, I mean, I normally take maybe like an hour from start to finish to clean an airbrush and clean it nice and properly. Right, but you don't want to be here that long watching me do this, so I'm just going to run you through the basics of sort of cleaning an airbrush like this. Again, you know, same sort of cleaning with the colour cup. We can clean it with a cotton wool bud and all the other little bits as well. Really, it's when we come back to all our nozzle section that's just in here. So if we can get out some tweezers maybe, so we can actually get these bits out. Right, this is going to be the main bit. This is the bit you want to be nice and clean, our nozzle section, which is why I do actually like the Harder and Sternbeck range, because this nozzle is nice and big for us to be able to clean it easier. If I get out, say, a water airbrush, right, and we sort of try and get to the needle end, if I can just get to it and screw this off, here's our little needle right on the end just there, which I will sort of warn you, if I just get out the little spanner that normally comes with these airbrushes. So after a little bit of messing about with trying to get this to come off, basically you can unscrew this, and then once you've sort of got it going, it does eventually come off. But I mean, hopefully you can sort of see why I choose Harder and Sternbeck. It is a bit of a faff around with their nozzles, trying to like unscrew them and stuff. And then once you do have it off, yeah, this is the difference. You know, you're cleaning this or cleaning the iWater one, as you can see, the size is just massively different. And then when putting these things back on, you've got to be so careful not to use your spanner to then go off and potentially cross-thread your nozzle. Right, so you've really sort of got to be careful and just very slowly turn it, and then once you get that bit of resistance, don't even really sort of tighten it, just that little bit of a pinch, because when it comes to, if you've under tightened it, you'll just get gurgling coming up in your colour cup end, If you've over tightened it, well, you've just ruined your nozzle and everything else, and you're potentially going to be paying like, you know, up to 50 quid to change it. So it is best just to loosely tighten it. If it gurgles, just give it a little bit of a pinch more of a tighten until it sort of stops gurgling, and then you're more good. But as I say, you know, it is a bit of a pain really. But anyway, back to our harder and sternback and the nozzle. You want to sort of get in here with a reamer, and what we can do with this is we basically stick this in here, spinning it around, and we can basically get up any sort of dried up paint, which, as you can see, we've got a fair bit going on in there. Right, and spin that around until we've got it all sort of nicely out. Now that gets rid of most of it. Personally, I like to take a little step more, which I really do recommend you sort of be really careful in this next thing I'm going to show you, because what I'm going to do is, what I like to do is I like to dip into my cellulose thinners. So there's like just a little bead of cellulose thinners on the end of my needle. Let that go into our nozzle, and then I sort of like very carefully try and work any bits of dried up paint through the nozzle end, which is, you know, something I do say you've got to be careful with, because you've only got to sort of push that needle through that little bit too much, and then that's it. You've turned your nozzle into either a 0.6 mil nozzle, or you end up actually splitting itself. So if you do it, which maybe when you first start you probably shouldn't, but over time you get a bit of extra experience, and you should be sort of get better at doing it and cleaning and all those kind of things. And then really, once that nozzle's all nice and cleaned, you know, that is basically, I mean, we've got a few more pieces just in here which we could sort of clean up as well, but again, I don't want to sort of spend the whole time showing you cleaning absolutely everything, because as I say, it takes a fair bit of time. So taking our main parts, our nozzle section, we're going to put our nozzles just in here on the end cap, and then we can start screwing this all back together. Well, actually, first off, don't forget to put our rubber O-ring back on, and then we can screw this onto here like so, and then start to bring it all back together. Now it is a little bit tricky just at the back here, and we've got this little bit of a spring section. Right, we need to first put our trigger just in here with the gold bit sticking at the back. Right, and you should feel that there's a bit of a bounce going on there because there's a bit of a spring down here. Right, and then this is where we need to push this end, and it goes into that little sort of hole in the trigger area, and we sort of need to get this on here and slowly sort of spin it on, and then we should be able to press down and feel some nice springy resistance, and that's all nicely working. And then this is the point where we take our needle, being very careful. We're going to very carefully sort of push this down through the needle, and we're going to do it slowly because we might have maybe misplaced something. It might come up to some sort of hard resistance maybe. Right, we'll feel a bit of resistance when it comes to about here. That's because there's some Teflons just here which stops any paint from coming back. You'll feel a bit of resistance, but you should still be able to push it forward. Right, you're not feeling a hard resistance, so you can carry on pushing it forward, at which point you want to then be sort of looking right at our nozzle end, because we want to sort of see the needle come out, and then when we feel a stop, we stop. Right, we don't push anymore, because as we see that come out, as soon as we get a feel a bit of a stop, we stop. Right, because if we push anymore, we're going to break that end of the nozzle, and then we can screw this sort of locking nut just here, so as our needle then comes in and out like so, and then we can put all our little bits on, all our end caps, and we can put our colour cups on, right, and then our little crown caps as well to protect our needle end, and the airbrush should be all good, at which point we can then whack some more air back in, and we can potentially, I mean, you could sort of throw some cellulose thinners in just for this first initial go, you know, and we can go through that same process that I showed you before, where we sort of gurgle it just a little bit. We don't need to gurgle it that much, just to get rid of any last little bits. Turn it upside down, maybe we've got left some bits in there. Right, and then we can just sort of start spraying stuff through. And then I do recommend, we do have some airbrush cleaner by Vallejo. I mean, I do like this airbrush cleaner. It's designed for cleaning airbrushes. They've got like a slight little lubrication in there as well, so it sort of helps it. And we can just blast a bit of this through as well, until basically we see it all nice and clear. But really, we've really sort of cleaned it, so we shouldn't have any sort of problems. And this airbrush now is all good to potentially go off, put it into storage for, maybe you might be doing some modeling next week or next month. You know it's all nice and clean. You know you're not going to come back one day and your airbrush is locked in solid because you've left paint in there. So I mean, that is, you know, cleaning your airbrush, which, as I say, when you first start out, the problems you're probably going to have is your airbrush starts spluttering and it's not got a good spray pattern, and it probably is just down to your nozzles getting all blocked up, your needles drying up, and you just need to clean your airbrush really, and to keep on top of cleaning your airbrush. As I say, the compressor, just empty out whatever condensation that gets in there through unscrewing the little bit underneath the tank. Pretty much that's all you need to do. You don't need to oil it like, say, some of the bigger commercial compressors. I mean, if you do have one of those big commercial compressors and you are using it, make sure it's topped up with oil. I think you even have to change filters and all those kind of things. You should really read the instructions on them. Regulators, to be honest with you, I don't really, I've 6 years, I don't think I've cleaned that regulator, to be honest with you. It's only when you get lots of condensation. If you get lots of condensation, there's that little nipple I showed you, I think it was in the first episode of this. You just press on that and it blasts out any sort of built up condensation, and that is basically it. So hopefully you have enjoyed this last little segment of basic airbrushing. If you want to learn more about airbrushing, intermediate and advanced, I mean, really, on the Genesis Models website, we've got all sorts of tutorials, product reviews. We've got a massive hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours of step-by-steps and rapid video builds showing you practically picking up an airbrush and spraying a model with it. So go to the website, check out all that content, and you should be able to learn a hell of a lot more. But this is just nicely basically getting you into airbrushing. So so that is it for basic airbrushing here at Genesis Models. So until next time, my name is Bobby Waldron, and I hope you've enjoyed.